The pace of this transit season is about to change, and I want to make sure you see it coming. For the past 16 days, we have been living inside a field defined by reception. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction landed something. Mercury retrograde scrambled the communication. The Pisces stellium thickened the atmosphere. Mars-Uranus cracked things open. The eclipse read what remained. The Cazimi confirmed the revision. And through all of it, the dominant instruction has been the same. Receive, observe, document. Do not act prematurely. That instruction was correct, and starting this week, it expires. 2 transits arrive between Monday and Thursday that fundamentally shift the energy from receptive to directive. Jupiter stations direct after approximately 4 months of retrograde motion, and Mars conjuncts the North Node in Pisces. One unlocks expansion that has been held in check since November. The other aligns the planet of action with the point of destiny. Together, they mark the transition from the integration phase of this transit season into the acceleration phase. And the acceleration arrives while the eclipse window is still open and Mercury retrograde is still active. That combination is specific, and it requires navigation. Stay with me on this because the week ahead is more complex than it looks. Jupiter stations direct first. Let me explain what this means and why it matters specifically now. Jupiter has been retrograde since approximately late November. 4 months of the largest planet in the solar system appearing to move backward through the zodiac. Jupiter governs expansion, opportunity, growth, optimism, abundance, education, travel, and the general sense that things are moving forward and getting better. When Jupiter is retrograde, that expansion turns inward. Growth becomes internal rather than external. Opportunities that were in motion slow down or pause. Plans that involved expansion, whether career, education, travel, creative projects, or relationships, enter a holding pattern. Not dead, held, waiting for the forward motion to resume before they can fully deploy. I want you to think back to late November and December. Was there something that was building momentum and then stalled? A project that had energy behind it, and then the energy dispersed. A relationship that was expanding and then plateaued. An educational or travel plan that was gaining traction and then went on hold. That holding pattern was Jupiter retrograde, and whatever was held is about to be released. Not everything at once. Jupiter does not work that way. It works in a specific order. The things that were most thoroughly processed during the retrograde, the opportunities that were most deeply refined internally, those move first. The ones that need more work move later. Jupiter retrograde was not idleness. It was incubation. And what hatches first this week is what was incubated longest and most carefully. When Jupiter stations direct, which happens this week, all of that held expansion starts releasing. Slowly at first. Jupiter's direct motion after retrograde has a quality similar to a river after a dam is opened. The water was always there. The pressure was building, and now the obstruction is removed. The flow resumes. But it takes a few days for the full current to establish itself. The station itself, the exact day Jupiter appears to stop and begin moving forward, is often felt as a stillness before the surge, a moment of suspension, and then the momentum builds daily through the rest of March and into April. By mid-March, the Jovian expansion will be running at a pace you have not felt since before the retrograde began. Here is why Jupiter stationing direct inside the eclipse integration window matters. The eclipse showed you what was real when the borrowed light went out. It stripped away the comfortable illusions and showed you the actual surface of your relationships, routines, systems, and values. That was a contraction, a narrowing, a Virgo precision strike on the parts of your life that were running on borrowed fuel. Jupiter direct provides the complementary movement, expansion built on what the eclipse revealed to be true, not expansion of everything, expansion of what survived the reading. The things the eclipse identified as real, as structurally sound, as worthy of continued investment. Those are the things Jupiter direct now begins to grow. And the things the eclipse identified as borrowed, as expired, as running on fumes, Jupiter direct does not expand those. They fall away as the expansion of the real pushes them to the margins. This creates a very specific dynamic I have only seen a few times in my tracking, and I want to name it precisely because understanding the mechanism helps you use it. Eclipse contraction, followed immediately by Jupiter expansion, produces what I think of as selective amplification. Not everything gets bigger. The real things get bigger. The true things expand. And the false things, already identified by the eclipse, become more obviously false by contrast. If the eclipse whispered, "This relationship is not working," Jupiter direct amplifies the whisper into a clear statement you cannot ignore. If the eclipse showed you this career path is aligned, Jupiter direct opens the next door on that path. If the eclipse revealed that a daily system needs restructuring, Jupiter direct provides the energy and optimism to actually begin the restructuring, rather than just acknowledging the need. The eclipse was the editor. Jupiter direct is the publisher. What survived the edit gets published. What was cut stays cut. And the selective nature of this amplification is what makes it trustworthy. This is not blind expansion. This is informed expansion. Expansion that has been through the eclipse's quality control. Mars conjunct the North Node is the second major transit of the week, and it operates differently from Jupiter direct, but in the same directional register. Mars is action. The North Node is destiny, or more precisely, the direction of growth. When Mars conjuncts the North Node, action aligns with growth direction. What you do and where you are heading synchronize. Effort becomes efficient. Actions that would normally require force flow naturally because they are aligned with the trajectory your life is already on. The feeling during a Mars node conjunction is not effort, it is momentum. The sensation that you are being carried by a current that is moving in the same direction you were already swimming. The swimming does not stop, but it suddenly requires less effort because the current is helping. The specific quality of this Mars node conjunction in Pisces deserves attention because Pisces changes what aligned action looks like. In a fire sign, aligned action would be bold, visible, direct, charge forward. In an earth sign, it would be practical, methodical, building. In an air sign, strategic, communicative, connective. In Pisces, aligned action is intuitive, fluid, non-linear. The most aligned action this week might not look like action at all from the outside. It might look like letting go, releasing a grip, allowing something to unfold without managing it. Pisces Mars node says the current is there, and it is moving in the right direction, and the most effective thing you can do is stop fighting it and let it carry you. Not passive, participatory. But the participation is in the allowing, not the forcing. I have tracked 3 Mars node conjunctions in the past, and the consistent observation is that the best outcomes come from people who recognize the direction rather than invented it. This is a crucial distinction. Mars node does not create direction. It illuminates direction that already exists. The trajectory was already there. Your growth was already pointed somewhere. Mars node makes the pointing visible and gives you the energy to follow it. The people who try to use Mars node energy to create a new direction from scratch, to decide this week where they want their life to go, tend to waste the transit on willpower rather than alignment. The people who spend the transit noticing where the energy naturally wants to move, where their attention keeps returning without effort, where their body leans before their mind decides, those people ride the transit to remarkable effect. The current is not optional. It is already running. Your job is to notice which way it flows and stop swimming across it. Let me map the week day by day because specificity helps you track what is happening in real time. Monday, the Jupiter direct station begins activating. You may feel a subtle lift, a sense that something that has been stuck begins to loosen. Projects that stalled resume. Conversations that went dormant reopen. Not all at once, but the first signs of forward momentum appear. If something returns on Monday that you had not thought about since December, pay close attention. That return is Jupiter releasing its most refined holding. Tuesday through Wednesday, Jupiter direct energy builds. The expansion becomes more tangible. Opportunities present themselves. Not new opportunities necessarily. Old ones that were on hold, paused during the retrograde, returning with forward motion. Pay attention to what comes back. It is not random. What returns is what Jupiter has been refining internally for 4 months. These days may also bring a sense of optimism that has been absent for weeks. After the heaviness of the eclipse and the frustration of retrograde, Jupiter direct introduces a feeling of possibility that is neither manic nor naive. It is grounded possibility. Earned optimism. Because the eclipse already stripped the illusions, and what remains is real, Jupiter's expansion of what is real feels fundamentally different from its expansion of what is imagined. This is trustworthy optimism. Thursday, Mars approaches the North Node. The action direction alignment begins. What was expanding now gets a trajectory. Not just bigger, directed bigger, growing toward something specific. You may feel an unusual sense of purpose or directionality, not in the head, in the body. A physical sense of being pulled forward by something you cannot name, but can feel. Friday through the weekend, the Mars node conjunction perfects. Aligned action is at its peak. If there is something you have been meaning to do that connects to your eclipse material, to the structure that landed on February 20th, to the Kazemi sentence that arrived on March 7th, this is the window to begin. Not to complete, to begin. Beginnings during Mars node conjunctions carry a momentum that sustains well beyond the transit itself. The beginning matters more than the completion this week. What you initiate during Mars node alignment has a trajectory built into it. The direction is embedded in the first step. Now here is the tension that makes this week genuinely complex. All of this expansion and direction arrives inside Mercury retrograde. The communication channel is still scrambled. The vocabulary the retrograde is building is still incomplete, which means the expansion of Jupiter direct and the directional alignment of Mars node are happening faster than your ability to communicate about them. You will feel the momentum before you can explain the momentum. You will sense the direction before you can describe the direction. This is not a problem if you understand it. It becomes a problem only if you try to force the expression to match the pace of the experience. Let the experience lead. Let the expansion be felt before it is articulated. Let the direction be sensed before it is announced. Mercury stations direct on March 20th, and at that point the full vocabulary becomes available. For now, act on what you feel. Speak about it when the words arrive. The timing does not need to be simultaneous. The eclipse material enters a new phase this week because the expansion and direction arriving from Jupiter and Mars node begin to interact with what the eclipse revealed. For the past 5 days, the eclipse material has been developing in a dark room of retrograde fog. Quiet, internal, gaining resolution. This week, the lights come on in the room. Not all at once, but Jupiter direct begins illuminating the eclipse material with forward-moving energy. What the eclipse showed you was real starts getting traction. What the eclipse showed you was expired starts falling away more visibly. And Mars node provides the directional force to begin acting on the eclipse reading in ways that were not available last week. The integration phase is ending. The implementation phase is beginning. Not complete implementation, the beginning of it. The first steps taken in the direction the eclipse pointed. 3 things to watch for this week that signal the acceleration has begun. First, something that was stuck starts moving. A project, a conversation, a decision, a plan. Something that has been in holding pattern since late last year begins showing signs of life. That is Jupiter direct doing its work. Note what moves first, because Jupiter tends to release the most internally refined opportunities first. What moves early in the direct station is what was most thoroughly processed during the retrograde. It is ready. It has been ready. It was waiting for the green light, and the light just changed. Second, an impulse arrives that feels directional rather than reactive. Not, I want to do something, but I want to do this specific thing, and I know which direction it moves me. That is Mars node alignment. The impulse has a quality of inevitability to it, like you are not choosing the direction so much as recognizing it. Trust that recognition. Do not second-guess it with overthinking. The Mars node impulse is body-level knowing. The mind catches up later. If the impulse arrives and you immediately start analyzing whether it is correct, you are in your mind. Drop back into the body. Does the direction feel pulled or pushed? Pulled is alignment. Pushed is will. This week favors pulled. Third, something from the eclipse reading that was in the note column of your triage moves to the plan column, or something from plan moves to act. The eclipse material escalates. What was informational becomes strategic. What was strategic becomes actionable. That escalation is Jupiter direct, amplifying the eclipse reading, and Mars node providing the directional force to begin acting on it. If your triage columns shift this week, the acceleration is confirmed. The receiving phase is complete. The building phase has begun. Here is where it lands. Watch for the expansion. Watch for the direction. Watch for the eclipse material moving from observation into action, and hold all of it lightly enough that Mercury retrograde cannot distort it, but firmly enough that the forward momentum can carry it. The next 7 days shift the register from receiving to building, from integration to implementation, from what did the eclipse show me to what am I going to do about it? We have spent 16 days learning how to see clearly. This week, we begin learning how to move clearly. The doing begins now.